When I was thinking of challenges to do, Hollow Knight was one of the first games that came to mind. They have so many difficult things to do built into the game itself. Parkour, a boss rush, and many other things that probably can be an entire video on its own. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, I have a confession to make. A few months ago, I had never played Hollow Knight in my life. I know, it's not something I'm proud about, but recently on stream, I chose to remedy that. I think it made sense to, before trying the difficult challenges, to actually play the game, experience the story, and also unlock the things I need to do the challenge. And while I always heard a lot of good things about Hollow Knight, I didn't realize how much fun I would have playing it. While in the beginning you don't feel strong at all, with limited mobility options, as you progress and unlock new abilities and power-ups, you slowly become a monster, allowing for even more fluid gameplay. Pulling off some things made me feel like I was the coolest person to ever play this game, even though I'm not. But I digress. This is about me versus every single boss in Hollow Knight. Hitless. I know it was a ridiculous goal to accomplish. Would I complete it? I don't know. But if I didn't, I would go insane trying. This video is my archive of me attempting to get Radiant on all Hollow Knight bosses. Before getting into everything, I should explain a bit on how the game works, as there are some people that don't know it. And if you don't know it, what's Radiant? While Hollow Knight does have an entire story mode and main map, this challenge takes place in Godhome, specifically the Hall of the Gods. In here, there's a statue for every single boss you faced, and you can fight them again. To get attuned, you fight the boss in the exact same way you did initially. To achieve Ascended, you face the boss again, but it has higher HP, deals double damage, and sometimes there's an element that's different to make it more difficult. For example, the Gruzmother fight is the first boss of the game, and normally, this is how it looks like. Fighting it in Ascended makes it look like this. Some bosses change significantly while others don't. The last tier is Radiant, and basically I have to fight the boss in Ascended difficulty, but not get hit a single time. Yeah, super easy, right? Just as a side note, yes, I did go through Ascended difficulty to unlock Radiant, but I don't see any point in talking about it. I'm just gonna focus on the Radiant aspect of everything. The order we'll be fighting the bosses is this overall achievement list thing. Why? I have no clue. I just feel it's paced well. It has a good balance of difficult and easy fights. The only exception are the alternate versions to bosses, which I'll fight after I finish a column. As for our moves, we have a hit that goes in 4 directions, a dash, a double jump, a ranged spell, a slam, and an upward spell. We also have a long dash that needs to charge up, but I'm rarely, if ever, going to be using it. These are the core of what we can do, but they synergize with each other well, allowing us to pull off some really cool and practical things. Charms are add-ons we can put on our character that have different effects. We only have 11 charm slots, and most charms use 2 or more slots, so the charms that I use will depend on the boss. But I'll quickly go over the ones I use in most of the battles. Quick Strike allows us to attack faster. Unbreakable Strength makes our nail hit stronger. Grimchild adds a summon that attacks periodically, and Mark of Pride increases the range of our nail. Only if necessary, I'll explain my charm setup from here on out, but I'll put a document with charm setups I use for all bosses down in the description. I think that's everything for background information. So without further ado, let's get into the challenge. I know in the beginning I have all bosses labeled as stupid hard, but I was kind of lying there. The first couple bosses aren't really that difficult. Gruzmother, Brooding Moloch, False Knight, Hornet Protector, Massive Moss Charger, Flukemarm and Mantis Lords were beaten somewhat quickly. Now, if you're an avid Hollow Knight enjoyer, you may have noticed that in the first set of easy bosses, I missed one. The second on the list and the very first hurdle of this challenge, Vengefly King, is the first cause of my pain. In the base game, Vengefly King is one of the easiest bosses. Its attacks consist of a charge that is super obvious, a roar that spawns 0 to 2 Vengeflies, and that's it. That's literally it. In Hall of the Gods, this doesn't change. It has the same extremely easy moveset. In fact, it's actually easier because with all my upgrades I've unlocked, I can one-shot the Vengeflies it spawns in. The only thing that would make it harder is if there were like 2 bosses or some. Oh.
Really good. No, I'm Pogo it. Okay, well, why did it flying up? Okay, well, okay.
I can't fuck!
Alright, yeah, there's 2 bosses, but that still didn't change the fact that they have predictable movesets. Theoretically, although it should be harder, it shouldn't be that much harder. So why was I struggling? There's a couple things that I was able to pinpoint, but it all boils down to the roar. It was a major issue in a strange way. When it does the move, it shakes the entire screen and creates these sound waves. I don't know about you, but to me, who's playing, this was extremely disorienting. This creates situations where sometimes both bosses are inside of each other, and as both moves have a very similar windup, I can't really tell which boss is doing what and end up dying due to anticipating incorrectly.
So that's why I didn't go for the hit on that one.
No! Like, look at that! When they're inside of each other, how am I supposed to know if they're charging or roaring, or if both of them are doing, like, I just can't. It's even worse when it happens multiple times in a row because now the sound waves make it so much harder to find the mini Vengeflies. In short, I was absolute trash. Yes, you could chalk it up to me just starting the challenge and not understanding what to do, but you have to realize I had just completed all 112% of Hollow Knight. I had gone through some of the hardest things this game had to offer, and out of all the bosses I could have had trouble with first for the challenge, this was the one? This fact added to my frustration and probably made me more annoyed than I should have ever been. After dying way too many times, I decided to chill and step back. In doing so, I realized one main thing. I was too hasty. Many of my deaths were because of me trying to squeeze every little bit of damage I could at once. Non-speedrunners beat this game by simply playing passive, just getting one hit at a time and slowly whittling away the HP of any boss. It didn't matter which one because as long as I survived, eventually they would die.
Alright, yeah, they're coming in. Good. Nice. I would like to get power up. Oh wait, I thought I died there, to be honest. Man, how much HP do you have? I swear you should be. Thank you. Holy, okay, good.
This boss, although not taking as long as most of the others I pass over briefly in the future, was pivotal, as it taught me an important lesson I would take with me to every boss from here on out. Patience. While it may seem obvious, going for one hit instead of 2 takes a lot of self-control, and those 5 seconds seem like a lifetime when you can't get hit once. Realizing that a hit may be risky and dodging works just as well, and is 100% better than dying. This boss is what made me change my mindset, and while easy in the grand scheme of things, is the reason why I included it in such detail. With that out of the way, I completed Failed Champion and Hornet Sentinel. Not in record time, definitely taking longer than their earlier counterparts, but I got there. I wasn't expecting a boss that would take me a long time to appear for a while after that. I really thought those 2 bosses to be the main problems of the first column, but I was soon to be proven wrong. the gatekeeper of me finishing the beginning quarter of bosses, the Sisters of Battle, was going to be the first of this challenge to truly take my sanity to its limits. The Mantis Lords are my favorite boss. End of story. Alright, no. I can't think of much, if any, bosses that tick as many boxes compared to the Mantis Lords. First, this soundtrack, in my opinion, is one of the best in a game full of absolutely amazing OSTs. When it comes to boss design, just look at this. How can you not think that's cool? Beating them in the base game gives you clout with the entire Mantis tribe. Finishing it unlocks one of the strongest charms in the game that I've currently used for all bosses so far. And finally, actually fighting them is so satisfying. There's no BS mechanics or projectiles or summons. They will come at you again and again, unrelenting. And it was so much fun. As I briefly mentioned, I got Radiant on the Mantis Lords and it wasn't notable. So what's the change between them and the Sisters of Battle? The stage is the same, doesn't seem like there's any speed differences, and Phase 1 here is a copy-paste of the previous. But Phase 2? Instead of knocking down the first and the others get up, you knock down the first, and they all get up. The extra Mantis increases the difficulty astronomically. Unlike before where you got a bit of breathing room, now they are choking you out. They both throw boomerangs at you from either side. Don't forget about the one coming down directly on top of you with an aerial attack. They're both doing dash attacks. Don't forget about the one coming down directly on top of you with an aerial attack. They're both doing aerial attacks. Don't forget about the other stupid aerial. This boss really took me to my absolute limits. I complain about too many things to keep track of.
Good. What? No, I didn't expect it to come back immediately. It like disappeared, and I was like, okay, the other two are there, but it just went back on top, like instantly. There's no way. There is no way that it hit me as it was coming out like that. No, I got the spikes, man. You give me this boomerang? Nah, but what is that? It just completely threw me off.
But the only reason why I felt so frustrated was that I thought I was doing everything right, but I still couldn't win. I weaved in spells whenever I could. I knew how to dodge every move they did, but could never do it consistently. I couldn't even implement my lesson of patience because I was not allowed to be patient. When I fought the Mantis Lords, I went in super optimistic.
No! Okay, well that's the best one I got so far. Man, no, I'm beating this today. I don't care. I'm beating this today. I'm just gonna, like, I'm not gonna feel satisfied until I beat this.
And came out, well, listen.
Get out here. Whatever, okay, I'm done for today. I can't go again. I can't. It's just, no. This is way too taxing for me. Alright. I'll be going. Goodbye.
As you can hear in my voice, I was completely defeated. I finished the day unable to come up with a solution and ended stream. But although I was down, I was not out. That night as I lay in bed, I tried to come up with something, anything, to help me beat this boss. I watched videos, I looked at my own VODs, and then I realized something. Thinking back on my deaths, probably over 90% of them had the exact same thing in common. I think I cracked what was wrong.
Alright. Hopefully today I can beat it. But I don't know, it'll take a bit for me to warm up first against it. When there's 3 of them. Alright, here we go. Alright, that's one down. Just need to be very careful. One down doesn't mean I'll beat it. It just means that it becomes much easier to deal with. Okay. Imagine if I died there. I would cry. I beat it? First, it is 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 45 seconds into this VOD. You can't make this up.
I turned on stream and beat the Sisters of Battle on my first try for the day. The thing I changed? I didn't cast a single spell. Most of my deaths the previous day were me trying to activate Descending Dark and dying before the animation even went off. So I thought, okay, why don't I just not use spells and see what happens? And wouldn't you know it, it worked. Right after this, I had an epiphany. The thing that everyone says is the most important thing to not forget in fights. Well, I just beat a boss I was struggling on without using it. And it was the cause of almost all my deaths. I chose right there. Never cast spells unless it's the freest thing in the world. Even though it's not optimal, even though fights would take longer, even though I'm losing free damage, I am not going to use a single spell unless the boss is stuck in place or animation. I'm not going for any speedrun or ridiculous bindings in the Pantheon. My goal is to beat this. If it's suboptimal, then whatever. I could not care less. Finally beating the Sisters of Battle and clearing the first column of bosses, you would think that I should have a break with an easy boss, right? Nope! Here we have the Oblobles, and originally I wasn't going to include this section because I thought I was just bad. You know, they look really easy. All they do is fly around and spew their pus at you. But after going through Reddit and seeing they're up there as one of the hardest rated bosses, I will gladly sit here and cry about these flying pieces of shit.
Poop.
Man, where do I start? All they do is shoot shit
Feces.
at you over and over again. I wish I was joking, but I'm not. That's their only move. They fly around and then fire. But to my knowledge, it's completely random how they do both. So sometimes you get into positions where one of them is right down in the corner with you and the other is above. So guess what? You can just go eat shit
Excrement.
because you can't do anything. But that's not all. I didn't even realize this, but only halfway through I saw they bounced off of each other, not phase into each other. Why is this a problem? Because sometimes they fly across the stage, slowly closing in on you. And if they take up half the stage and rain down upon you, good luck. But hold on! There is still more. Let's say you somehow manage to kill one. Oh yes! Finally! I can relax, you exclaim. But unfortunately, you can't. It shouts and becomes enraged, cycling through its phases at a significantly faster rate. While there are fewer projectiles on the screen, there's less time to hit the remaining Oblobble, so actually, you must be more patient for this phase. Unlike other fights where I felt like I was doing something wrong, this just felt unfair and unfun. I want to say I found something out that cracked this boss wide open, but I couldn't. Unlike others where I could improve, learn, and grow, for this boss, it felt impossible. It seriously was either I died because I couldn't average the shot properly, or because it got too close to the wall. The only thing that I changed that made a difference was equipping the charm Heavy Blow. Basically, it knocks the enemy back further. It doesn't sound like much, but in a fight where space is crucial, both for keeping the boss at bay and for dodging, having that slight knockback adds up over multiple hits and makes all the difference. Now, instead of getting stuck in a corner and having little time to react, I actually had space to understand the next attack's trajectory and stand in the correct place. Of course I had to learn the correct timings to hit, and had to pray they didn't get desynced. But cutting down the randomness was a game changer, and I got it soon after going through this trial and error.
Oh, thank you, Heavy Blow. That you've knocked that so far. No! I should have dashed in, but I was really afraid that it would have just started shooting. Just chill. Chill for now. No! Okay. There we go.
After the Oblobbles, I knew for a fact that I wasn't going to be stuck on anything for a long time. The second column is just full of bosses that I can beat super fast. I don't have anything else to say here, so let's just go. When all was said and done, I'd finished the entire second column in short time. I'm throwing in the Traitor Lord as a bonus boss because I beat it first try. The only one worth mentioning was Umu, as you can't attack the boss, but instead you need to kill these side enemies and blow up the membrane. Mixing in platforming with attacks you need to constantly move for does create a unique experience for a boss, but after remembering the existence of Grubberfly's Elegy, I made short work of it. Also, I should mention that I started getting more confident in my character control and hits, so I tried weaving in spells in easy locations. Sadly, we have to take a break from the easy bosses, and what stares us in the face is an adversary who, unfortunately, deserves to be called a god. In the Hall of the... whatever, you get it. One of the most hated characters in the entire game, Grey Prince Zoe, is our next opponent. If you've never played Hollow Knight, all you need to do is look at his title card and you can instantly understand his entire personality. This man is full of himself. And the sad part is, he doesn't even have the skills to back up his ego. Yeah, he looks all swole and brandishes a massive nail, but he moves as gracefully as a noodle. His swordsmanship is nothing remarkable as well. He jumps around randomly, he runs and falls over, sometimes even fails at falling over. He also summons 3 different things that have his face. He's a walking embarrassment. But I wouldn't include this fight if it was a stupid joke. I mean, it is a joke fight, but you have to be stupid if you think it's going to be easy. Consistently rated as one of the hardest bosses in the game, Zote fails at everything he tries to do, and yet succeeds better than he could have ever imagined. The killer for the Zote boss is randomness. You don't know when he's going to do what. Sometimes, if he jumps into the air, he'll come back down immediately, whereas other times he'll defy the laws of physics. Sometimes when he's flailing the sword around while frolicking, he'll last a long time before, inevitably, failing, compared to other times where he just flops over instantly, not even beginning the run animation. Sometimes he'll summon one thing and continue cycling through the phases, and other times he'll non-stop barrage you with his pets. This fight has so many moving parts, it's impossible to count for all of them. You have to play reactively and be ready for anything. So how did I fare? How did I deal with this walking roulette table? To be honest, I kinda smoked him. I was mentally preparing myself to be here for days and ended up wiping the floor with him. And yeah, I've already been told with bindings it would be infinitely more difficult, but I still expected more. I'm not complaining at all though. In fact, I'm glad it didn't take me that long because the stuff I need to beat in the future, well, let's just say I saved some time here. Alright, let's not get caught up. Back to easy bosses, rapid fire time, let's go. Soul Warrior, done. Soul Master, done. Dung Defender, done. Watcher Knights, done. No Eyes, done. But it was way too stressful. Marmu, done. Galleon, done. Soul Tyrant, this boss was much harder than I felt it should have been. Going through all my clips for editing, I don't even remember it taking it as long as it did. But looking at the VODs, I spent even more time on this than the Sisters of Battle. The 2 main problems about this were the super fast teleports, allowing for only 1 hit every few seconds, and for the second phase, me not knowing the jump button exists. Seriously, look at this. It took me an entire day, and someone had to tell me to jump to avoid this. After that, however, I can say it's done. Finishing off the third column, we have the white defender, which is also done. And with that, we've finished the third column. So here we are, the final stretch. It doesn't feel like we've been doing this challenge for long, but we're here. And I would like to say we just have a quarter left, and by the raw numbers, that is true. But from here on out, it's some of the hardest bosses in the entire game. And while I would love to say it starts up easy and ramps up, that, unfortunately, is not the case. The first boss of this column is one that I was afraid of from the very beginning of this challenge. His name strikes fear into any that want to 100% the Hall of Gods. And his name is...
Reba Markta.
Markoth. I refuse to believe that a single person who has attempted this boss in Radiant can say, "Oh yeah, Markoth was the easiest boss for me." Hollow Knight is known to have some hard bosses, but this is just diabolical. His only thing that attacks you directly are these needles he throws at you. They spawn in a completely random location, adjust themselves for a bit, and then fly towards you. That's it, that's all they do. But if this was the only attack that he did, I wouldn't be talking about this boss. Notice I said earlier, his only thing that attacks you directly. The needles, in my opinion, are an easier part of this boss. So what else can he do? He flies around randomly. Now this doesn't seem like a problem until you account for the fact that there's no floor. You only have these 5 jokes of a platform. 3 of them can just barely hold your character model. And the best part? They're sloped platforms, so unless you clip the top of it, you're just gonna slide right off. But once again, if it was just these 2 things, it wouldn't be an issue. As you probably saw, circling Markoth is a shield. You can also imagine it blocks attacks like a shield, but it also has a hitbox, meaning you can die to it. In addition, it can, at random, slow down. This is important. It slows down, stops, then switches directions. I died so many times to this move, it is not even funny. The last actually isn't that important. All he does is stand still and extends his shield before bringing it in. While you can't hit him really, he also can't hit you if you dodge around it. All in all, a net neutral. And he does it at random. This fight is a constant battle between your parkour skills, dodging the needles that come at you, dodging Markoth and the shield, and getting hits off. The boss does not have as much RNG as Grey Prince Zote, but everything surrounding the boss and the nature of the attacks makes it so much harder. Wait, do you think I'm done? No, because I've just been explaining the first phase. Wow! When you bring Markoth to half HP, not only does he get a second shield, but he nearly doubles the rate at which he throws the nails. While they are very minor changes, it completely shifts the dynamic of the boss. It was a slight annoyance before, dodging everything, but these 2 buffs amplify every part I just mentioned. I can't be absent-minded when jumping anymore, as it's now close to 2 nails flying across the screen at one time. I can't just hit whenever I want, as locking myself in an animation for less than a second is the difference between narrowly surviving and being forced to restart, etc., etc. But even after all this, I doubt that telling you really proves my point. So I'm just going to show you.
Jump over that, okay. It's fine, surely. I can't go for that. This should be an out of range. Yep, good. Wow, that did not go as far. I hit the wrong way. Watch out. There's no time for me to go in. I've never seen that before. The wings and the dash went off at the same time. So like I just had no mobility. I just somehow managed to do the perfect inputs to just cock myself. That's the best way to put it. And then I jump into that. Nope. Man, he's not even a good place for me to send a spell through. I could hit him with 1, but ideally it's 2 hits. Nope, I'm dead here. But like, man, how do I, like, it spawns on, like, through the platform. where I'm going to land. I don't know how to just counter that. Where is the counterplay? I'm just dead.
I hope this paints a clearer picture of what I went up against. It's near impossible to safely approach, get hits off, and leave once. And I had to do that for the entire fight. It didn't matter how much I practiced or changed. I could get better, but only to an extent. At the end of the day, if I had a tiny bit of bad luck in an amazing run, it was all over. I can't complain about everything though. These walls are extremely important to this fight. They're present on both sides and you can climb up and around them or cling to them, allowing for easy dodges. But other than that, as HP pool being low, you're on your own. The first thing I learned was the best way to get some early damage off. Dash onto the boss before he spawned his shield and dash out. Yes, every couple attempts he would fly in this specific direction, which would sandwich me between him and the platform, killing me, but the positives of getting this free damage off outweighed the potential negatives. But for every small positive, there was a massive negative. I couldn't make much progress early on because I wasn't able to parkour well. I will be the first to admit that I'm not the best platformer in games. Even when exploring, I would be able to beat a boss first try, but when it came to platforming, I was on the same skill level as a game journalist. Now combine that with everything I stated before, and this boss was the first in a long time that stood out to me. While I tried to get better, this would be an obstacle I battled with the entire time. It didn't matter how much I went into the boss room to just practice jumping around the platforms. I never perfected it, and so I just dealt with it. Getting better, but never really getting good. Apart from this, I underwent too many revelations to talk about in this video. Mentioning everything would make this already long video even longer. Thus, the most important part I'm going to talk about is my charm setup. For almost every boss so far, I've used the exact same charms. Grimchild, Mark of Pride, Unbreakable Strength, and Quick Slash. There were a few times I made minor tweaks, but I never completely revamped my approach. I didn't think of it as an important change because there was no reason to change. I could always get hits off, and as I never used spells, I didn't need to amplify them. But everything changed for this boss. Having charms for nails don't work when I cannot reliably hit the boss. Getting deflected off the shield, placing myself in bad positions, and missing jumps are just a few of the problems I faced. So after an entire day or two of trying and getting to the second phase just a handful of times, I knew something had to change. The first switch was with Grubberfly's Elegy. If you remember, I used this to beat Umu as it attacks from range. And it worked! For a while. Now I could consistently reach second phase, but I still couldn't break through to the end. So then I was back to the beginning. The next thing I thought of was an old enemy. I might have to open that thing I once threw away at the back of my closet in a locked box. Spells. My idea was, since the beginning part was slowly getting easier for me, why not go a complete spell build? I'll store up my soul over time with my weak nail hits, then once he hits second phase, I burst him with everything that I have. He didn't die. Nothing I did worked consistently. And it's not like I tried this for like 2 attempts and then stopped. I tried every variation imaginable to me. I was seriously grasping at straws and nothing worked.
Okay. I'm fine.
They are mine.
Why does it swap directions? It was gonna go around the other way and then swapped.
Like, why? It's fine. Okay, watch out. I just need to focus on dodging right now. Because this comes at a faster rate!
They are mine.
I go for a hit. I would like to, but I can't. I have to stand away and then walk back in here. Okay, there we go. Here's second phase now. I have to just focus on dodging right now. I can't go for hits at all until he starts doing this move. Just dodge again. Go around.
Mine.
Nope. I'm at. I have to really hope that he doesn't come towards me like how he is now. I feel like I'm in a really bad position right now. But I think I've somewhat recovered it. Man, I'm really not getting as many hits as I would like to. Look at that. It's just RNG. It's seriously just RNG where the stuff spawns in. He's on the bottom platform.
Markoth really made me contemplate. I considered for the first time if I could even finish this challenge. I had been trying this boss for more than I planned for at this point, and still seemed to be making no progress. I changed my charm setup more than I could count, cycling through each of them multiple times, never decisive on one. I took this boss one step at a time, developing general strategies like never hitting more than twice in a row, and more niche ones like when Markoth stands in the middle and does a spin move, to climb to the very top. Nothing I did bore fruit. And I wanted to stop so badly. But I couldn't. I was set. The idea of never finishing really did not sit right with me. I had come so far already. Am I going to spit on all of my effort past me made? No, I'm not. So although I tried my best to talk myself out of it, and took breaks sometimes to reset my mental, I couldn't have ever given up. No matter how much my brain told me to stop, I never gave up. No matter how many deaths I racked up, I didn't give up. Even if it would take me 100 hours, I had a goal, and until I reached the end, I would drag myself to the computer every night and never give up.
On hitting him, and I thought I dodged it, but I guess my legs hit the hit the needle. My bad. It's I'm not good at using spells, and just I always like saved my soul up from before. I wouldn't use my spells in the first phase, right? Because I don't want to get close to hit in the second phase. So I would save up my soul, but the problem was getting to the second phase. I felt like I couldn't get the second phase. Can I get... No, it's too far away, sadly. Am I dead? I am not dead yet. It spawns under. That's not... Okay. Let's hope it doesn't reach me. Doesn't, it's good. I'm not really getting many nail hits off. Okay, good. No. Oh my, what just happened? I don't know how I'd survive that. Okay. Oh, that yeah, I'm so happy. Okay. Oh, look how beautiful it is. Oh my gosh. Never have to do this fight ever again in my life.
Before I fought Markoth, I had my worries. Did I have the skills to beat this challenge? Was something at the forefront of my head every day. And while trying this boss, those thoughts were more prevalent than ever. But hearing that death scream and seeing that explosion, it boosted my confidence tremendously, more than anything thus far. But there was something else. Yes, I was happy to see my practice finally pay off. Yes, I had to never do this boss again. But behind all my celebrations, I knew it wasn't over. After Markoth, we get some time to relax. Zero was doable, albeit annoying, while Gorb and Elder Hu were some of the easiest foes of the entire run. The next few bosses, Oro and Mato, Shio, and Nail Sage Sly, have some of the coolest boss designs in the entire game. The first three are NPCs you meet in the game that teach you nail arts, moves that you hold down your button for and then release for a powerful attack. In each of their boss fights, their signature move is the move that they teach you that they too need to charge before attacking, whether it be the Great Slash, the Dash Slash, or the Cyclone Slash. However, they fell without too many problems. Nail Sage Sly, on the other hand, is the shopkeeper, who is revealed to be the elder of them all, who mastered all the abilities which are reflected in his fight. In addition, he's so fast, barely giving you any time to hit him. But the real problems appear in Phase 2.
About 3 hits off there. Okay, wait, that felt pretty clean at the end there. Okay, let's try not to die here. I'm gonna die. Yep, that's exactly what I thought was gonna happen.
Although he loses his variety of moves he had previously, now he bounces off the wall at ridiculous speed. You can only get a single hit right after he finishes his attack. Other than that, you have to be watching his current path and future places he can bounce to. The most difficult thing about this boss is surviving long enough to understand the nuances of the abilities and the best way to dodge them. Once you get over the initiation phase with him, it's pretty simple though. And a day of attempts later, I got it. He's actually one of my favorite bosses to fight and is one of the few I would gladly do again in Radiant. Following that is Pure Vessel. I have a lot to say about this. Firstly, I'm breaking the convention I set for myself and not talking about the Ascended fight, because I spent more time on that than Radiant. Why? Well, the fight isn't that hard. Compared to other bosses where you slowly get better over time, the difficulty is more like it starts out super difficult, but you improve at a rapid rate. He parallels Sly, where the moves seem impossible at first, but as you die to them more, you understand more. So with all that, his moves include a wind-up into a triple slash, an initial charge into a dash, a highlight into dagger throw, a teleport into the air and slam, which causes spikes to jut out of the ground. At 66% HP, a new move is added where he charges up a ball of energy around him, which lead to smaller circles appearing and exploding. And at 33%, the last move is added where he opens his stomach and after a moment, a tendril lashes out. Each move has a wind-up period. It's short but noticeable, so anyone with enough practice can confidently beat it. Anyone except for me. I can't put into words what was difficult. It just was. Let me show you why a normal person, like you, can beat it. Okay, so you see the boss charging up the move and dodge. Great. Now let's see me try to dodge.
Okay, good here. I dashed too early. No, he was doing something. And now I just keep dashing in without my shade cloak. I don't know what I'm doing right now.
For the life of me, nothing clicked. Something as simple as jumping I couldn't do. Wait, again with the jumping? Maybe all my problems in games just come down to jumping. It was ingrained in my muscle memory to try and dash to avoid the obstacles. If you remember at the beginning, I explained that my dash makes me invulnerable with a short cooldown. If I rely on the dash, I lose the invulnerability, meaning I have no failsafe, and jumping would just put me in better situations most of the time, especially for that final move he unlocks, which probably accounted for the majority of my deaths. At least it felt like it, because I would always dash preemptively the second I saw any wind-up. I had the timings down pat. The problem for third phase is that he stands still and charges up a ranged attack. I waste my dash and vulnerability, and by the time I realize I have to jump, I've already put myself in a bad position, so I couldn't recover at all. And even for the other phases, if I try to jump to avoid, yeah. So, back to what I originally stated. I did not struggle on this boss because of Radiant. I struggled because I couldn't learn the moves. As there were no differences between Radiant and Ascended, it made more sense to build up muscle memory in the easier versions. It was the better place for me to break out of my old habits, which took a lot of effort. And even then, I couldn't do it 100% of the time. I struggled for a long time. For some reason, this fight, which so many could beat with ease after some practice, was a huge grind for me. It wasn't a matter of if I would beat it, it was when. And when I was finally able to beat Ascended almost always, I transferred over to Radiant and cleared it without much effort. Yup, that's it. Trust me, it was as anticlimactic to you as it was to me. I spent so long grinding this boss, and then one day, I just got it. So let's just move on and never talk about this again. Grim and Nightmare King Grim are the only boss whose alternate forms I fought at the same time as we're bordering the end. They were okay in regards to difficulty. In the main game, Grim was a good fight while Nightmare King took the longest for me to beat. But as I've gone hitless against almost every boss in the game, these two didn't offer anything special. These fights are both pattern-based, and Pure Vessel, the boss right before this, was infinitely more difficult. Most regarded as the second hardest pattern-based boss. Wait, second hardest? Up until this point, I have gone through 43 bosses. 43 gods, and have conquered every one of them. But those were technically the warm-up. There's only one behemoth left standing between me and the end of this grueling gauntlet. Absolute Radiance. And though she's labeled under the same banner as every other boss I've fought up until this point, it would do this boss a disservice to put her on the same level. 2 phases already seem like so much, so what about like 3 or 4? How about 6? She has 6 phases to go through. If you know anything about video games, I think you can begin to see what's hard about it. I must not get hit once in this marathon of a fight. But if the moves were easy, then we wouldn't even be here. I could just say, I won, woo, celebration, but no. Let's go over them and how I had to beat them. Phases 1 to 3 take place on this flat stage. In Phase 1, her moves include back-to-back beam attacks with a short wind-up. It happens 3 times in a row. A sword bloom where a few weapons fan and spread out, slightly rotating in the process, which she does twice. Sword rain, where 3 to 4 waves of swords fall from the sky with some gaps between them. Sword wall, which is the exact same as sword rain except from the side. Wall of light, a moving beam of light that travels across the screen. And the orb attack. We'll get to that shortly. And also she TPs randomly. She's stationary otherwise, but she can be in any place along this platform. If you couldn't tell, it's a lot of moves. Easily one of the larger movesets of everything so far, and the majority of moves are pretty difficult. Everything emanating from her face are easily understood, but other than that, you really need to put in the work. Sword wall may look easy, but having to thread yourself properly, manage your dash invulnerability, and preparing for the next wall position or move sucked. Wall of light also seems fine in a vacuum, but many times Radiance decides she's too impatient for it to complete fully, and lets another move go off for the fun of it. Phase 1 as a whole is difficult when compared to the rest of bosses in the Hall of Gods, but it's one of the easier ones when compared to Radiance's other phases. So, onwards to the next phase. Phase 2 doesn't change much. Spikes can now spawn on the right or left sides at certain points. It's the tiniest change, but the impact is huge. I require space to dodge certain moves. And a lot of the time I lose out on hits as Radiance will TP above the spikes in impossible to reach places. Because of this, I was forced to re-implement spells into my skill set. I had one sentence saying it before, but I moved on from the mindset of never using spells. I tried, to the best of my ability, to use spells when I felt safe as a way to improve my damage output by the slightest amount. But this is the only time where I'm actively hindering myself by not using a spell. Descending Dark is one of the most important abilities for this fight. Earlier on, I mentioned it against the Sisters of Battle. But as a refresher, you dive down and do a lot of splash damage when you hit the floor. But the most important part is that you are invulnerable the entire time, and even a bit after. The way the spikes work in this boss fight is that they disappear once your character model touches it, not when you get damaged. There is a huge distinction there, so if the knight happens to be invulnerable when it's touching the spikes, you will go away with no consequences. To free up space, I may have to lose out on some damage, but using the dive is way more important. That, and I need to make sure I don't get hit during the windup. So if I can manage everything, we get to move on. Phase 3 doesn't have too much to worry about. It's a constant sword rain with spikes on either side. It's very predictable, and I even learned you can squeeze yourself through every sword, not just the huge gap. So I just have to make sure I'm on the floor as much as possible, and it'll all be good, and I can progress. Phase 4 is the big one. She retains the moves from Phase 1, but the platforms. Doesn't it remind you of something? Yep. Just when you think I never had to do anything related to that boss again, we get this. We encounter the same problem I have with Markoth, where I can't hit her all the time, as she can sometimes be off the map or literally away from all the platforms. If I went for any hit, it would be inviting death from any attack. Speaking of which, every move in Phase 1 I mentioned has over doubled in difficulty because now I have close to zero space. The easy to dodge moves from before can now sometimes screw me over. And the hard moves? I don't even know what word to use. For example, the sword wall. I needed to be able to dash across and have something to land on to reposition myself for the next wave. I can't do that as freely anymore because I'm in danger of dashing off the platform constantly. I must ensure I am right at the edge so I can hit the other side. But the move I despise the most. These absolute bastard orbs. I don't get them. I don't. They're supposed to somewhat follow your character. Not super sharply, but like, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes they follow an expected arc, but other times they Tokyo drift on me and screw me over. I'm calm. I'm calm. I'll just show a few clips of why I believe this is the worst move in the game.
1, 2, good. It just doesn't stop. Why does it turn? Sometimes it just goes straight ahead, and then other times it turns. I don't get it. Why does it just randomly do that?
Everything that I've learned up to this point I think culminates in this one phase. And it doesn't help that this is her highest HP threshold by a landslide. Almost double the amount of any phase. But if somehow we beat this, we continue to Phase 5. It's unique, as I'm technically not fighting Radiance, but rather myself. My long-lasting problem of platforming continues to haunt me in the infamous climb section. I have to get to the very top, parkouring my way up, while the platforms beneath me disappear. And I have to dodge non-stop beams of light. It always feels way longer than it actually is, and with my history, you already know what this section is gonna look like. But if I make it, I'm here. Phase 6 is the final phase where I only have 2 platforms and Radiance. She can TP in one of 3 locations, left, middle, and right. It's the smallest amount of HP she has by far, but don't be fooled, every jump needs to be precise. As there's no floor, you have to jump into the air to hit her, and if she TPs away, well, you're more than likely screwed as you fall to the void below. That's not it though. Coming back to say their final goodbye, the orbs have returned as her only attack. It will constantly spawn and fly up to you, until either you or her dies. And we even have less ground to work with now. I won't lie, it is offset by once it leaves the screen, it won't return. So we just have to make sure we're playing at the top of the map when we dodge the orb, and hopefully it flies off the screen. But that's it. If you're able to do this phase, then there's nothing left. You would have beaten Absolute Radiance. Every single phase has their difficulties, but I have to re-emphasize that I have to do this boss in one go. Each section I mentioned, I must do it all at once, and I thought I was ready. Yeah, it would be grueling, but I had conquered every other challenge. Many people told me that Radiance would be one of, if not the hardest, And I did believe them, but all the warnings imaginable couldn't have prepared me for what was to come.
I don't like the look of that, but it's okay. I'm dead here. Yeah. I'm dead. I should have just dashed through. Yeah. Stand here. That doesn't hit. 1, 2. Oh, I almost jumped into it. I thought it was gonna go on the ground. I don't have enough soul left to actually hit it. 1, 2, 3. Ah, no. No! Matt, how much HP does this thing have? Here we go. Just the 5-year wait time before it gets up. In the title screen, you get flashbang, and then there's the boss. I really have no clue how I'm gonna do this boss on Radiant. It's like, a lot of times, I just go, try to jump on the boss, and then it's like some stupid thing that just happens. It's climb phase now. Great. Man, I got bad, like, it was just shooting on the platform all the time. Yeah, I guess I should have dashed or something, but I didn't want to use my Shade Cloak. I'm able to heal to full. That's something. Okay, that's pretty good. Man. Can you please go somewhere else? Yeah, no, I can't do this today. I'm done.
I tried until I broke. For almost a week, I didn't touch anything Hollow Knight related. I was so close. I cleared everything up until now, just one more step, and I couldn't take it. I knew I could do it. I knew it, but it's right there. I'm not going into details about any strategies I did because I didn't have anything really. I mean, sure, I had some minor things, but I thought everything came down to me. There's no special pattern I can follow, no charm setup, nothing. It's just me versus her, and currently, the score was 100-0. Give or take. I had no thoughts of giving up, but I was really worried. What if I kept doing this every day and I never got it? One day turning on Hollow Knight and realizing that not only it's not fun anymore, but I had no drive. What would I do then? Would it all be for nothing? The only thing that kept me going was remembering everything I had accomplished up until this point. So I pushed through and really dove deep into everything I had done. She requires the dodge skills that beat Pure Vessel, the parkour knowledge that lasted against Markoth, all while having worse RNG than Grey Prince Zote and the Oblobles. While I couldn't stick to my rule of no spells I made in Sisters of Battle, the fight was still necessary in my mental toughness for later fights. And the first thing I learned from the Vengefly Kings, patience was the key that tied everything together. Every boss left their mark on me. Everything prior was the warm-up, but it's the warm-up for a reason. I learned from it. No matter how big or small of an impact they had, I still learned. And every one of them was important. Day after day, I got on, lost for an hour straight, then got off. It was mind-numbingly stupid, but any thoughts about me giving up was non-existent. I was so far gone in a blind rage that I was no longer seeing red, it was all white. Slamming my hands against the controller every day fluctuated between fun and unfun by the minute. But at this point, or maybe at some point early on, I don't know. It didn't matter. I would watch her and every other boss fall if it was the last thing I did.
Oh, no. How am I alive? Okay. 1, 2, 3.
They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. And yeah, looking at what happened with this boss and by extension those past few weeks, you wouldn't be wrong to say I did go insane. There was always a slim chance I would beat the boss, and each failure just made me keep coming back. You can say that with the amount of attempts I had, that luck was the only reason I beat anything. My skill had minimal impact. And I wouldn't fault you if you said so. But the beautiful thing about chance is that even if it's 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, or even worse odds, especially if it's worse odds, when it does hit, nothing in the world matches the ecstasy you feel in that moment.
Okay!
I think of myself as someone who doesn't lose their cool easily. I don't yell much, I don't hardcore rage, I don't blame the game all that much. But everything that I went through these past few weeks, all the emotions I felt, in that moment, I wasn't myself. And everything that I built up got let out at once. Going through this challenge was one of the most difficult and rewarding experiences I think I've ever gone through in gaming. It may not have been fun every step of the way, but in the end, I got to the end. Hollow Knight was an amazing game to have been able to play blind, and it was extra special being able to go through every boss like this. Even though in another lifetime I may not have ever done this challenge, I'm glad I did in this one. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of deaths, dozens of hours, 44 shining medallions, 1 trophy later. The journey that I embarked on has ended.